welcome to our latest episode of Team Lean Talks. Today I am meeting with Joe Turco. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate being here. Excited to get to hang out with everybody. Obviously, you, Andrew, just balling out and bring some of that Boston love to everybody. Hope everybody's staying warm because it's cold here.
Yeah, it's cold where I am too in Alexandria. And I know you just mentioned it, but you're in Boston. Can you give everyone the little bit of a background of where you are, how you got started, a little bit about Joe?
Yeah, so I mean, a little bit about Joe is pretty easy. I'm from Boston. I went to high school, college, and graduate school in New York. Came back while I was working in the footwear industry before going overseas. Then, ironically, met my wife and did the very romantic thing of moving halfway around the world for a girl. And had to start over. And what's the best way to start over after the corporate life? Well, of course, it's getting into real estate.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's what we did, jumped into real estate, built up a team, and now it's that simple thing of everybody knows Joe.
Nice. So when you started over and built up your real estate team, was that in Boston or somewhere else? Was this halfway around the world still?
Nope. So I moved back to Boston.
Okay.
And started doing real estate in Boston. I did my first year as a solo agent, and then in my second year started a team because I used to, run and do all of that in the footwear industry. So when I kind of looked at how things were similar, I said, okay, well, it doesn't make sense. If we're going to scale, if we're really going to do things the right way, I have to bring all of this experience that I've had in the past over here and just really start kind of cranking it up, ratcheting it up, and putting all of that knowledge to use and saying like, all right, we're going to do this way, and we're not going to wait. We're not going to say I have to have this amount of experience. We're not going to say I have to have this amount of sales. I have to have this amount of clout. We're going to find the people that are willing to put in the work, have faith in the process, and are going to reap the rewards. So that's where I think we had the advantage is everybody else was always waiting for something, almost waiting for permission to do the great things that they knew they could do. And I was never one of those people. I was one of those people that said, let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's win together, and let's get going now.
Right. That's a great approach. Let's take it one step back though before we kind of get into it.
Yeah.
What in the first, you were in sales prior, but what got you interested in real estate? And I'll share with me. So I was in the Air Force as a civilian for 7.5 years before getting into real estate. And for me, it was HGTV kind of was just getting popular and had like House Hunters and those, Flip or Flop, those kind of shows. So that's what kind of got me. I like binged so many episodes with my roommate at the time. That's what got me into real estate. But what was it for you? What made you get attracted to real estate?
Anyone that's listening to this, I promise you, I am a lot nicer than this line of thought would have you believe. So I'm apologizing in advance. I'm saying sorry because I know how I'm going to sound. Don't hate me, but I based it on 3 factors. I was looking at it from the standpoint of 1, I wanted to own my own business. 2, I wanted something where as much hard work, as much time and effort that I put into it, I wanted to be able to scale out our income. And then the 3rd.
Is this the disclaimer?
This is the disclaimer.
Okay.
I saw that really, really low competition pool and was just like, man, I could mop up. That is just
low competition pool in Boston.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. And what year was this, Joe?
That was 2014.
Okay.
So it's just one of those things where, unfortunately, I saw kind of who was doing big things at the time, and I wasn't impressed.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you saw a need, right, or a gap, and you decided to take a shot and be proactive, right?
Exactly. And that's the thing is like, I think too many people kind of look at what is in front of them and don't say, hey, I'm going to look for gaps. They say, I'm going to get right into the middle of the pack. They
Mm-hmm.
want to feel that comfort of being surrounded either by other people or being in a similar situation. And instead of looking for the opportunity either to the left or to the right of where everybody's going or to what everybody's doing, they just kind of be quote unquote comfortable in the middle. And that's why they get average results.
Right. All right. Well, let's talk about that's a great point. I completely agree with you. But let's talk about 2014. I think you said
Yep.
solo agent. But so let's focus on the year before you started your team in 2015. You're a
Yep.
solo agent in Boston. Where and how did you find your first deal?
So I was a person that had, not lived in Boston for almost a decade. I had been overseas. I had been, in New York. I had been all these different places. And I was saying, well, I don't know anybody. I don't have a sphere of influence. All of the things that all of the other realtors were trying to tell me, like, oh, yeah, call your friends, call
Mm-hmm.
your people that you knew in high school, that you went to college with, call the buddies that you go out with. And I'm like, they're not here. That doesn't work. Like, yeah, I can send a couple of referrals. That's great. But like, there's
Yeah.
nobody local. And I knew that it wasn't going to work for me. So I did what they thought was insane. I started doing 5 to 7 open houses a week.
Mm.
And my whole thought process was, well, I need to get face to face with people. I need to meet people. And I need to have basically office hours
Right.
where if I'm not at that time meeting someone, I'm following up with someone, I'm calling someone. Or, and remember, 2014, video was not big at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely ridiculed a lot, and I think I've gotten most of it taken down off the internet. I've unfortunately found some scraps here and there, but I was making video content in the open houses because to me it was, hey, I'm in this open house. I don't care if it's a vacant house. I don't care if it's a bad house. If I'm putting things out on social media and no one else is, I'm going to get ahead because people are seeing that I'm actually actively in the
Right.
field working and other people aren't doing it. And
Yeah.
that was my whole strategy. Meet people, follow up with people, and make content that at the time, granted, now it's very different,
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody else was doing.
Cool. So 5 to 6 open houses. I'm assuming most of them on the weekends, but weekday open houses as well, or just whenever you saw a need
Yep.
or an opening.
So what I would try and do is 3 on Saturdays, 1 on Sundays, and then I would do commuter open houses any night that an agent would let me because I didn't have listings of my own.
Yeah.
And I would do them for vacant properties. I would do them for properties that had been a long time on market. I would do them on any property I could get with the thought process of, well, what happens most of the time when something's been sitting? Well, you don't do open houses, you don't get a lot of attention, and people that want to see it, a lot of times their agent, good or bad, will dissuade them saying, "Oh, it's been there forever. You don't really want to see it. Here, let's go see this new one that just came
Right.
on."
Yeah.
But if you're doing an open house, all those people that were potentially dissuaded, they come, and all those people that maybe haven't been hardcore looking, well, what do? They just stop in and they talk to you. And all those neighbors that have seen it there forever, but they see a new face holding an open house, well, they come talk to you. And
Right.
because, well, who else do I have to talk to? Of course, I'm going to talk to them. Of course, I'm going to engage with them and try to convert them. And that's where I think was the big difference was I wanted to talk to and meet everyone at every opportunity. And instead of shutting the door on that and kind of saying no to any business, I was kicking it down and saying, everyone, please come talk to me. I'm 100% available for you. please, here I am. I want to be the best for you. And I think, honestly, that's a mentality that most agents, even new agents, now don't have and are spoiled on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that is an excellent way, especially if you're just getting started out to meet people, if you don't have a sphere.
Mhm.
I also didn't have a sphere, but I lived here my whole life, but that was just for different reasons. I don't have any friends or,
Yeah.
people don't
Oh,
see
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So,
It,
but we won't
it's
talk about that. But
Yeah, it's because we're both old. We both like comic books, and
yeah,
we know what it was like growing up during that time period. It was not like Stranger Things. It was not, popular like it is now.
right, right. But yeah, excellent lead generation technique or vehicle if you are just starting out and you need to know something to do and you don't maybe not have the capital to spend, right? Because it's tough getting those. So how long I think we're heading here, but you mentioned, the open houses. Is that where your first customer came from, your first client?
That's where the first client came from, and they ended up being a seller and a buyer.
Oh, awesome. So it paid
Yeah.
off dividends. How long, out of curiosity, how long did it take you from, three open houses every Saturday and Sunday and during the week to get that client?
So to get the client or to get the first paycheck?
Maybe both.
So the first paycheck came after 7 months.
Wow. Okay.
But that was also a 500 plus $1,000 home in 2014 money,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
followed shortly thereafter by, you know, the other closing because, it was a sell and a buy. So,
Right.
like, obviously a lot of things caught up, and that was great. But yeah, it was a slog. It was, every day being positive, saying like, "Hey, I'm going to work. This is going to work. I'm going to do this." Because again, I think too many sleep on the fact that, like, to build a pipeline, you have to start,
Right.
and the start of that pipeline is it's not fun. It's not instant. It's not overnight,
Right.
and pipeline will feed you for years and years. But that's why so many agents, even the bad ones, will do great business, is because, like, they just lasted. If you last past 3 years, like, it gets easier
Mm-hmm.
if you just do a couple simple things.
Right.
That's not to say that, those agents are great. A lot of them are horrible, but they just stuck it out.
Yeah,
You
I
got to
think
build it.
that's pretty awesome. That's a long time between when you made that decision to switch from probably a paycheck, right, to where
Yeah.
is my next paycheck? 7 months is a very long time. That's crazy that you were able to do it, and I love that you had the heart and you were like, I'm going to do this basically no matter what. And now I'm sure all that effort from 0 to 7 months before you're able to see the fruits of your labor are also where you're building your pipeline, getting more people in your database, right, to follow up with. Let's talk about that. So you did a lot of open houses, probably more than most agents are willing to do, right?
Yep.
Especially for that long. What on earth are you doing with the people in your pipeline, and how are you trying as a new agent? How are you trying to convert them, get in front of them after you've met? How are you staying top of mind?
Well, and that's the thing. I think it was because of what I like to call tenacious follow up. And I'm not talking like 10 days of pain. I'm not talking about, oh, hey, I'm just going to harass people. I'm talking about I'm going to tenaciously pursue your business, your opportunity, and every opportunity that I can gain from you. So I would meet with people and I would set the second appointment at that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask them to get their phone out and make sure that they got the Google Calendar invite, that all the information was correct, that we had everything set up correctly. I would start asking them for referrals at that second meeting. I would skip the first. I would have a little decorum and I would
Right.
wait until the second date to ask for a referral. And I would tell them, hey, if I'm doing a great job, I want to meet your friends and family and colleagues. I want to do a great job not only for them, but for you and for anyone that I can help.
Mm-hmm.
And it was where, if they're asking about properties or an area, I wasn't just giving them a 2 sentence blurb. I would also do CMAs on a couple of the properties, and I would show, with that type of tenacious follow up, also value. Because what else did I have to do with my time except to work, show value, and follow up?
Right.
If they would say something like, hey, my birthday's coming up, hey, I'm going to do an event, I'm going to have something that I care about, I would do things like send flowers, because I make sure to get where they work,
Mm-hmm.
get what their address is, pay attention, use active listening skills, which I think, if again I'm frank, most realtors have none of, because they don't actually listen. They're just waiting for the next time that they can insert their script,
Right.
and using that skill to say, like, oh, okay, hey, your daughter's birthday is coming up. Great. I'm going to send flowers to the house.
Yeah.
$20 bouquet of flowers goes a long way.
It definitely would make you stand. I mean, if someone did that for me at that part of the relationship, I'd be like, man, this person is really on top of their stuff. I'm curious. You were in your sales role before. Those are some pretty advanced techniques. They sound really simple, right? Like getting that second appointment while you're on the phone or in person with them, having them bring out their phone, making sure they got it. Where did you learn that?
I mean, a lot of it was from mentoring, a lot of it was from just also having, in a lot of cases, language barriers with people, where, like, I'm working through translators, I'm working with people that, like, I'm not easily able to communicate with. So I have to ensure that we are on the same page. That if
Mm-hmm.
we are setting a follow up meeting, one, that we're both going to be there and we're going to both be in the appropriate place, because failure wasn't an option. A miscommunication at that level was not an option.
Right.
And that, you had to execute, and that you can't just wait for the sale. You can't just wait for somebody else to say, oh, okay, hey, I decided I'm going to use you. That you had to be decisive, that you had to be a person that proactively went after not only that business, but future business, because one sale will not feed you, and
Mm-hmm.
one sale does not create a career. So it was, advice from my mentors, both in the footwear industry as well as, some in college, and from being in a position where I knew that the only way to scale up was to be able to have people be advocates for you.
Mm-hmm.
It would never be where, if I had one sale, that one person would be enough. And the other thing was not trusting the fact that someone would do what they said.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many times, and it's an agent, has someone said, oh, yeah, I gave, my friend your number. They're going to call you. Awesome. What can I do right now?
Right.
I can sit and wait. And that is literally all I can do. And that's useless, because I have no actionable items. I have no way to follow up, and I have no more information. But what I do, and what has been very successful, both for, the people on my team as well as for the people that I coach within the industry, is, hey, great, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to put me on a 3-way text with that person.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love you to introduce me to them. That way they can save my number into their phone. I can very politely reply, and when it's convenient for them, we can connect.
Right.
Now, what does that do? It does a couple things. One, it makes it where I have that person's information. Two, I'm actually seeing, is this person referring me business or not?
Mm-hmm.
And three, if that person is actually, like, wanting to discuss things, they're not having that awkward feeling of, like, hey, I'm calling this person that I don't know, that I've never been introduced to, and I have to make that first move.
Right.
How many people felt like, they were up climbing a tree, kind of like when they were dating? You know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, I'm gonna go out on this limb and I'm going to hand this girl a saw and say like, hey, I'm going to ask you something. Don't cut off this limb. Don't make me fall.
Right.
And that's kind of the thing, is like, why are we putting these people that are going to potentially be clients in that position? Why not make it efficient, easy, as well as productive?
Yeah.
And the best thing is, if we teach all of our, raving fans, our past clients, the people that know, love, like, tolerate, however we want to describe them, us, to do this, well, what happens is we see like who really are our cheerleaders. And that's the big thing, is like, oh, all of a sudden we get all these three-way texts, and, we're talking to all these people, and what is it? We have a system, and it scales.
Yeah.
And now we have inbound opportunities, as opposed to, oh, hey, like, I'm always fighting for things.
Right. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The key part that I took away from that is making it easy on the other party, right? Because they might not, I mean, as real estate agents or just in sales in general, you're like, oh, they're going to reach out when they're ready. They're going to do this. But they're busy. They're not thinking about it. They might feel uncomfortable. They might not know what to do. So if you proactively approach it that way, and I love how you mentioned systems, because I'm all about SOPs and playbooks, doing the same thing over and over. So when things don't go as planned, you have an idea of where the breakdown
Why?
was. We can come back to that a little bit later if you'd like. But yeah, just making it super easy on these people. And then it also makes you seem really professional, right? If
Right.
you met a handful of agents and Joe was the only one that was like, hey, let me take the initiative to reach out on my own in a polite, proper manner, and then do what you do of, I want to make sure we're going to be at the same place, take out your phone, do this. They're like, wow, Joe really has his stuff together. And that's a big differentiator, even not even in sales, just in general with companies. You get impressed when you get an a notification or a reminder for something, and then the person actually shows up and calls when they're supposed to, and then has just their stuff in line, right?
Right.
It's an easy, simple, but a lot of the times it's something that most sales people miss, right?
Right. How often do we joke about, oh, realtor time?
Yeah,
Everybody's running late.
right,
Oh, something came up. They have to reschedule. They can't handle their calendar, but supposedly they're professionals.
right.
They don't know how to say no to when they already have an obligation.
Mm-hmm.
But we're claiming that we're doing what's best for our clients when we
Yep,
can't handle something as simple as a calendar. And that's the thing, is like, how are you going to be a team leader? How are you going to lead and train others to be better if you can't be better for yourself?
exactly. Yeah. So you had mentioned that you had mentors in your first year. Did you happen to have any real estate specific coaches? I think you had said in your prior, careers, but for us, I'm the first to admit it. I feel like I waited way too long to hire a coach. It was not until like the third or fourth year, I think. But what was your journey like there?
Yeah, so I mean, I had a mentor who was my broker, and he was great in some ways, and, you know, could use improvement in others, because he was an old school guy, and he was gruff, and he was my kind of guy, in the way that it was like there was no sugarcoating. It was like it was either right or it was
Hmm.
wrong. I was like, that is who I want, because like I don't want somebody patting me on the head saying like, good job, Joe, that was great, you just keep doing that and you'll be the best.
Right.
I wanted a person that was going to tell me I was the worst of the worst, exactly how I needed to improve, and tell me, what brass tacks was, like where I was going if I continued down this path. And he
Hmm.
was perfect for that. But he was one of those old school guys too that was like, hey, you're on a 40-60 split as a solo agent at my brokerage. And I was like, not understanding at the time how much money I was leaving on the table. Because
That is a
again,
lot. Yeah. Yeah.
right. So, I didn't get a formal coach, but he mentored me. He showed me how to look up land records, which I don't think most agents even know how to do anymore. How to
Hmm.
actually prospect for developers, how to do things, that were not conventional. but we're kind of like old school. Like, this is how you get business. You don't simply wait for it. You proactively go after it. So like, I'll call him out. Chris Summers, big ups to you, man. Appreciate you always. I know that, you just retired, but like, straight up, man, always appreciate everything you did for that year one agent.
Cool. All right. So that was your year one. You built a pipeline from basically nothing because you're
Yep.
new to, or back in the area, I should say.
Yep.
And then you, starting from a solo agent year one into year two, building a team, that's pretty quick. Normally you join a team, you figure it out, then you kind of spin off. But let's talk about your year two. What made you or caused you to want to build the team model?
I think the biggest thing that made me want to is I had, run teams in other industries, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. I can't do everything and I can't scale if it's simply me. So to scale, I have to have someone else. Now, I made the mistake that most agents make. What did I do? I hired another agent. Now,
First,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Now, fortunately, and I think, you know, I'm very lucky in this, that agent's still with me. How
Okay.
often do you hear that?
Yeah.
You know,
In retrospect, looking back to 2015, what would have Joe told Joe back then? Who would have been your first hire?
I think my first hire, honestly, would have been an ISA.
An ISA. Okay. I was
Yeah.
gonna guess you would have said an assistant or like a
Mhm.
calendar email manager.
I,
Okay.
I know a lot of people think that, and my thought process is if you're a solo agent and you want to start a team, you have to have a pipeline that is overwhelming.
Right.
Now, how is it going to be overwhelming? Well, you have to be hitting the phones, you have to be prospecting, you have to be doing all those things. But also, if you have an ISA that is also doing those things, how hard is it really to manage a schedule of one person?
Mm-hmm.
Not that crazy,
Right.
not that terrible. How hard is it if you have two people following up to put appointments for one person on a
Mm-hmm.
schedule? Not too bad.
Right.
And I think it would have been ISA, it would have then been a TC, and then I think it would have been a marketing coordinator.
Cool.
I
So
think
to be clear though, when you were a solo agent, you were assuming all those roles. You didn't third party anything out. You were doing all the paperwork, transaction coordination, everything.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So all right. So now we're in 2015, a year after your start. You're like, I want to build this team. You hire an agent.
Hire an agent.
How did you recruit or get that person to see the value of joining your team?
I said, hey, I have a ton of sales experience. You are an attorney, you're a friend, you can jump right in, we can work well together, let's make money.
So you knew him, you had a relationship with
Had a
him before.
relationship.
Was
Yep.
he in real estate? You mentioned
Nope.
he was an attorney, so no real estate background either.
Nope.
Okay. So did you convince the, and I know he's still on your team, but you convinced this person who was an active practicing attorney to stop being a practicing attorney and come into real estate, or did he do it part time
Nope.
and
Did,
work?
did it did it part time and said, hey, sure, I'll jump in, I'll do it part time. So I made all the textbook quote unquote mistakes if you look at it that way. But
Mhm.
then I also throw back the well, look at my retention.
Yeah, not bad.
So
Almost a decade.
almost a decade. How many
That's
people can say that
pretty
for
good.
300?
Yeah.
Right. But that's the great thing is like we went into it like brothers and shoulder to shoulder, let's get this done. Let's
Cool.
have an amazing empire to build and let's do that. And that's where we built the team up from.
I love
And
that.
that's where like he's kind of, the right hand on the team. And why not?
I think that's
Because
so cool. I don't know if I've told this to you before, but my business partner who's actively running our team now, we knew each other since seventh grade. So I've
Oh,
known him for like 25. I don't even know how long. It makes me feel old saying that, but like 25 years maybe. And we're still talking every day. So good retention there too on both
I know,
ends.
right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, he's like, yeah, I'll still hang out with this guy. It's
Yeah.
been, a couple decades. I'm good with it.
Right. 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 That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean,
So, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but I think that's the thing is like I think too many people get caught up in situations of not how can we work best, but what are people telling me is best.
Hmm.
Because how many people will tell you, oh, part-time agents can't do anything? That part-time agent has been one of the biggest foundational rocks in our team for almost a decade.
Cool. Yeah, that really says something about you two together, that relationship, and then you as your vision. You've clearly been able to build something amazing that he's still a part of, and that you are too, right?
Right.
So the agent was the first, or your second teammate, first hire. Where did you build the team? Like, what was your next team member from there?
I kept doing it wrong, man. I hired like three other agents.
Oh, perfect. So what was the logistics there around like who was doing the admin paperwork? Was that just you were building your own business at the same time and giving people business, but you were acting as their admin TC?
And marketing and running open houses and basically anything and everything because I looked at it as if I am going to be the business owner,
Mm-hmm.
I am the person that has to do every task,
Right.
know every task, and have the experience of doing every task. So that early in my career, I didn't feel like I could give up things
Mm-hmm.
because I hadn't done them yet. How was
Right.
I going to manage people? How was I going to set expectations? How was I going to be able to kind of look at and value out how valuable is it to pay for this service? How much should I pay for this service?
Right.
What should the expectations be? How difficult is it? What are some of the roadblocks you're going to have in doing some of these tasks if I've never done it? So
Mm-hmm.
to me, as much as it was, taking pride in having the ownership of that experience, it was also, I wanted to make sure that long term, I was having good ROI and keeping a very profitable P&L because
Right.
I didn't want to be that person that, oh, hey, well, I didn't know what I didn't know, so I gave away half my company.
Right. Yeah. 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 I kind of ran into the same thing. I think we waited. It's that mentality of like, no one's going to do it better than me. But as I have learned from experience, there's that leverage piece, right? So, what should you be focusing on? So, now in my approach to any of the companies that we have, it's should I be doing this? I
Mm-hmm.
might learn it once, or, there's someone better, potentially cheaper, more economical out there that can do it, that wants to do it versus me, where you have to focus on these bigger vision and mission goals, right? But in our company now, we have a rule, and I wish I started with this in 13. It's if it's a task that I don't think I should be doing or I don't want to do anymore, right? I will create a playbook or an SOP, whatever you want to call it, record it, codify it, put it together, and just pass it off, and then have them own it and just
Right.
take it off the table, right? And then you're focusing on bigger, better things. So that's
I,
the one thing that I really want people to understand. If you're busy, there's a difference between being busy and being productive, right? For
huge.
anyone, yeah, anyone out there that's like, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time to scale or grow. Look at what you're doing, do an audit of your time, and you could potentially find, there are great people on Upwork overseas, anywhere in the world nowadays. It's easy to
I
connect.
mean, Andrew, let's be honest. I mean, most agents, just from a prospecting perspective, would fail the stopwatch test.
Right.
And if they've never heard of that, listeners, it's really simple. Active prospecting is when you're calling or speaking directly to someone face to face to get new business.
Mm-hmm.
seeking new business.
Right.
And the only time the stopwatch can run is when you're doing that.
Yeah.
It's not prepping your list. It's not getting a contract under agreement. It's not doing any of the million things. It's not posting on your Facebook, making a TikTok. It's not driving to an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
All it is you talking to someone asking for their business or following up asking for their business.
Right.
And run that stopwatch and see how much you actually prospect in a week. And that was one of the biggest things that one of my mentors showed me was you need to have at least 20 hours of that each week if you want to be highly successful, top of industry.
Right. Yeah.
And I know I coach teams where, we did that and one of the team leaders came back and said I had an hour and a half. And I'm like, that is pathetic. You should be embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they were.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, obviously, like to each his own, right? All of us are business owners and we all do our own thing. But I've had a lot of conversations with agents who are like, oh, I'm so, so busy and running around doing all this stuff and I'm trying to grow, but I can't figure it out. I'm like, well, how many deals did you close last year? And they're like, 10. I'm like, well, what, 10? That's like one less than one a month. And then
Right.
you kind of just peel back the onion and they do what I guess that coaching client did. And if they're working 40, 50 hours, however many hours, right? Probably 95% of that is doing the pieces of information or the pieces of the business that you should leverage out and get someone else to help you with at a lower rate than you, right? And you're not prospecting. That's the key. You're taking your time away from doing what you just said and having those needle moving conversations.
Exactly. If you can pay someone $10 an hour to make a list of people for you to call, and that saves you 3 hours, and you can call people for 3 hours, well, you're going to convert. Plus, you're going to get better at your scripts. You're going to get better at your follow up. You're going to build your pipeline. And I mean, it's all these simple things. It's, oh, hey, like living in Boston, do you necessarily, when you have showings in Boston, drive in? No, half the time you either Uber or you hire a driver for the day because
Right.
one, clients love it. They think it's fancy. Two, you don't have to pay for parking. It's
Right.
more cost effective. And
More time
three,
efficient, right?
it's more time efficient because you're getting dropped off at the door, you're going to your appointment, and then you're getting picked right up and you're going to the next one so you can see more properties.
I've never done that. That's actually pretty cool. Like the hiring a driver for the day. I'm gonna have to tell my team about that. That's a good one.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah,
all out, man. It
yeah.
looks good.
Honestly,
Everybody
man,
thinks they're a rock star.
everything we talked about too, kind of like leveraging, having different people to handle different things on your team as well. How professional and cool does that look like from the prospect or client's perspective too? Kind of like the everyone always uses the analogy of like the doctor office, right?
Mm-hmm.
The doctor isn't like working the front desk, checking you in, taking your blood pressure, then seeing you, then doing like there's a system and there are people. I remember the first time when I successfully, signed a client and moved forward, but passed them to the team. And you don't just not tell them, right? You kind of set expectations. This is how our team works. And they were comfortable with that. But I think that also kind of like around how you ask them to pull out their phone and confirm the next calendar appointment.
Yeah.
Hey, now that we're under contract, you're going to be working with John or Mary, and this is what they're going to do, A, B, C, and D. Don't worry, I'll always be here, but they're awesome. Talk them up a little bit, make it seem like it's normal everyday business process, right? And they respect that, I think, at the end of the day. And I now expect that when talking with teams, and again, it takes time to get there, but when you do execute at a very high level and efficient level, it's what sets you apart and what gets your client to refer you and say, these guys were amazing. You have to work with them.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people, especially team leaders, forget because they keep trying to be all these different things, and they forget what they're really great at. And that might be calling people. That might be face to face with people. That might be building SOPs and structures.
Mm-hmm.
They all have this idea sometimes that like they have to give it away and do what a team leader does, and in their mind it's XYZ.
Right. Yeah.
All out with what you're good at. If you're amazing at, you know, calling FISBOs and expireds, be the highest paid ISA in the world.
Right.
If you are amazing at creating systems, be the highest paid unofficial director of operations
Mm-hmm.
in the world.
Right.
If you are the best at negotiating contracts, negotiate every contract for the team, ball out,
Yep.
do it.
Yeah.
Just do that 24/7.
I mean, I think that also kind of rubs off on the rest of the team or who you're working with, right? They can tell if you like doing something, they can tell if you hate doing something. Also, if you're doing everything, you drop the ball, especially if you're trying to do it at scale. That's where the client gets hurt, and potentially you get hurt from a reputation standpoint. But yeah, I totally agree with that. Joe, this has been awesome. I know you got to run.
Yeah.
Um, I always ask at the end, or I try to, what's the one piece of advice if you could tell anyone who's trying to start a team, what would you tell them?
Standards are important. So, anyone that joins your team has one task and one task only before you'll do anything for them. And I think Andrew is going to cry when he hears what this is for my team and what I think it should be for all of your teams. They have to get out that dreaded Excel spreadsheet. I'm talking OG CSVs.
Uh
First column is first name. Second column is last name. Third column is cell phone. Fourth is email. And then after that, the columns are broken out based on postal address. So that way, everything can be uploaded into a CRM, into a printing service, into a CRM, basically into anything.
oh. Mm-hmm.
Because all of those fields in some way will be able to be assigned to any product, service, or program that any time in your life or career as an agent that you will need.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who are we putting on there? Everyone you know.
Yep.
Not everyone that you're friends with, not everyone that you like, not everyone that you've talked to in the last year. You start with your immediate family, then you go to your extended family, regardless of age,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of ability to do anything, purchase, sell, location, etc. You then move to your friends, people you went to high school with, people you went to college with, people you served in the military with, people at your jobs. Then you go to Facebook. Y'all got a lot of Facebook friends, right?
Yep.
You can easily export the list of those names, and that can be added on. Then you go to LinkedIn. Then you also go to Instagram. And then you have to fill in the blanks.
Right.
And to fill in the blanks, and here's again the tough part, Andrew, you're not allowed to talk about real estate. You have to reach out to those people and say, hey, I got a new phone. I value our relationship, so I want to make sure that I have all of yours. Can you give me an updated address?
Mm-hmm.
What is your email? Hey, we're only friends on Facebook, but I want to make sure that I can get a hold of you. Can I have your cell phone?
Yeah.
Call them through the Facebook Messenger or send them a Facebook message,
Mm-hmm.
or worst case, write on their wall. Whatever it takes. But they have to fill that out completely with no blanks. Because at the end of the day, if they don't have the tenacity, the grit, and the willpower to, one, warm up their database, and two, have it there where it will be a gold mine of the best ROI in their career,
Mm-hmm.
they're not a person worth having on the team because
Right.
they're not in it enough for themselves for me to think that they're going to be in it for us.
Yeah. Well, that's a great approach. Good strategy. I like that.
Thanks.
You got to start somewhere, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Might as well be with people that like you.
Exactly, exactly. Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time. Before you head out, though, if anyone is in the Boston area and are looking for an amazing agent, real estate advisor, et cetera, how would one get in touch with you? And we'll also put this in the episode description down below.
Absolutely. So the best way to reach out is either going to our website, turcogroups.com, or to check out Instagram, our favorite social media, which is Turco underscore group, or you can email me directly, and this is my actual email. So, have fun with it. Joe at joeturcogroup.com. And yeah, that is the hands down best way to reach out. And we would be happy to, show you all the great things about my fair city.
Awesome. Well, I was just in Boston about a month ago in Back Bay. So if I'm ever in the mood or to move up there or to come up there, I'm going to definitely hit you up.
I
Uh,
mean, hit me up. All
amazing
I gotta
area.
say,
I
guys,
love it.
is 4-day weekends in Europe are a
Yeah.
thing here. It's a short flight, so it's a good place to post up.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again, Joe, for your time. It was a lot of fun being with you and hearing your story.
Yeah, awesome, man. It was great having this opportunity, and Andrew, super appreciate it. Thanks, man.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks.